Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us again tonight for the next installment on the illustrious, wonderful, epic tale of God's avatars into the world and all the great kings and great souls and pure devotees of the Lord who manifest along with him, all the great demigods who came as part of his pastimes. All of those stories are contained within the Purana called the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're very, very excited to be reading Uddhava, the song of the bumblebee actually tonight, but it's Uddhava's return to Vrindavan with the message of Krishna. And you might remember Krishna said, I will return. So at this point, Uddhava is coming to bring that message. And we'll share in the reading. I guess we'll take about 15 each, okay? Starting out, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Paricharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Yadesha Tarane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, okay, chapter 47, I think it is. Is that correct? All right. And I'll start out reading as usual, and then everybody grab about 15 each. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, the young women of Braja became astonished upon seeing Lord Krishna's servant, who had long arms, whose eyes resembled a newly grown lotus, who wore a yellow garment and lotus garland, and whose lotus-like face glowed with brilliantly polished earrings. Who is this handsome man? The gopis thought. Where has he come from, and who does he serve? He's wearing Krishna's clothes and ornaments. Saying this, the gopis eagerly crowded around Uddhava, whose shelter was the lotus feet of Lord Uddhamashloka, Sri Krishna. Bowing their heads in humility, the gopis duly honored Uddhava with their shy, smiling glances and pleasing words. They took him to a quiet place, seated him comfortably, and began to question him, for they recognized him to be a messenger from Krishna, the master of the goddess of fortune. The gopis said, we know that you are the personal servant of Krishna, the chief of the Yadus, and that you have come here on the order of your good master who desires to give a pleasure to his parents. We see nothing else he might consider worth remembering in these cow pastures of Vrindavan. Indeed, the bonds of affection for one's family members are difficult to break, even for a sage. The friendship shown towards others, though those who are not family members, is motivated by personal interest, and thus is a pretense that lasts only until one's purpose is fulfilled. Such friendship is just like the interest men take in women or bees in flowers. Prostitutes abandon a penniless man, subjects an incompetent king, students their teacher once they have finished their education, and priests a man who has remunerated them for a sacrifice. Birds abandon a tree when its fruits are gone, guests a house after they have eaten, animals a forest that has burnt down, and a lover the woman he has enjoyed, even though she remains attached to him. Thus speaking, the gopis, whose words, bodies, and minds were fully dedicated to Lord Govinda, put aside all their regular work now that Krishna's messenger, Sri Uddhava, had arrived amongst them. Constantly remembering the activities their beloved Krishna had performed in childhood and youth, they sang about them and cried without shame. One of the gopis, while meditating on her previous association with Krishna, saw a honeybee before her and imagined it to be a messenger sent by her beloved. Thus, she spoke as follows. The gopi said, O honeybee, O friend of a cheater, don't touch my feet with your whiskers, which are smeared with the kumkum that rubbed onto Krishna's garland when it was crushed by the breast of a rival lover. Let Krishna satisfy the women of Mathura. One who sends a messenger like you will certainly be ridiculed in the Yadu's assembly. After making us drink the enchanting nectar of his lips only once, Krishna suddenly abandoned us, just as you might quickly abandon some flowers. How is it, then, that Goddess Padma willingly serves his lotus feet? Alas, the answer must certainly be that her mind has been stolen away by his deceitful words. Oh, B, why do you sing here so much about the Lord of the Yadus in front of us homeless people? These topics are old news to us. Better you sing about that friend of Arjuna in the front of his new girlfriends, the burning desire in whose breast he is now relieved. Those ladies will surely give you the charity you are begging. In heaven, on earth, or in the subterranean sphere, what women are unavailable to him? He simply arches his eyebrows and smiles with deceptive charm, and they all become his. The Supreme Goddess herself worships the dust of his feet. So, what is our position in comparison? But at least those who are wretched can chant his name, Uttama Shloka. So, who would like to read the next, say, 15? Oh, would you mind, Jack Krishna Prabhu? Because you may get cut off at some point. We always worry about you.
Yeah, we get in and out with these storms. No, I'm good.
Okay.
Okay. Keep your head off my feet. I know what you're doing. You expertly learned diplomacy from Mukunda, and now you come as his messenger with flattering words. But he abandoned those who, for his sake alone, gave up their children, husbands, and all other relations. He's simply ungrateful. What should I make up with him now? Like a hunter, he cruelly shot the king of the monkeys with arrows because he's conquered by a woman. He disfigured another woman who came to him with his lusty desires. And even after consuming the gifts of Bali Maharaj, he bound them up with the ropes as if he were a crow. So let us give all friendship with this dark, complex boy, even if we can't give up talking about him. To hear about the pastimes that Krishna regularly performs is nectar for ears. For those who relish just a single drop of that nectar, even once, their dedication to maturity duality is ruined. Many such persons have suddenly given up their wretched homes and families, and themselves becoming wretched, traveled here to Vrindavan to wander about like birds, begging for their living. Faithfully taking the deceitful words as true, we became just like the black deer's foolish wives, who trust the cruel hunter's song. Thus we repeatedly felt the sharp pain of the lust caused by the touch of his nails. O messenger, please talk about something besides Krishna. Wow. O friend of my dear one, has my beloved sent you here again? I should honor you, friend. So please come choose whatever boon you wish. But why have you come back here to take us to him, whose conjugal love is so difficult to give up? After all, gentle bee, his consort is the goddess Shri, and is always with him, staying upon his chest. I scared Gayatri off. O Uddhava, it is indeed regrettable that the Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs and his friends, the coward boys? O great soul, does he ever talk about us, his maidservants? When will he lay on his head on his Agru scented hand? Sukadev Goswami said, having heard this, Uddhava then tried to pacify the Gopis, who were most eager to see Lord Krishna. He thus began relating to them the message of their beloved. Sri Uddhava said, certainly you Gopis are all successful and are universally worshipped because you have dedicated your minds in this way to the Supreme Personality Godhead, Vasudeva. Devotional service unto Lord Krishna is attained by charity, strict vows, austerities, and fire sacrifices, by japa, study of Vedic texts, observance of regular principles, and indeed the performance of many other auspicious practices. By your great fortune, you have established an unexcelled standard of pure devotion for the Lord, Uttama Shoka, a standard even the sages can hardly attain. By your great fortune, you have left your sons, husbands, bodily comforts, relatives, and homes in favor of the Supreme Male, who is known as Krishna. You have rightfully claimed the privilege of an unalloyed love for Transcendental Lord, O most glorious Gopis, indeed, by exhibiting your love for Krishna and separation from him, you have shown me great mercy. My good ladies, now please your beloved's message, which I, your confidential servant of my master, have come here to bring you. The Supreme Lord said, "You are never actually separated from me, for I am the soul of all creation. Just as the elements of nature, either air, fire, water, and earth, are present in every created thing, so I am present within everyone's mind, life, air, and senses, and also within the physical elements of the modes of the material nature." I end here and I pass to Bhagavatam.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna. All right. Here we go. Number 30. By myself I create, sustain, and withdraw myself within myself by the power of my personal energy, which comprises the material elements, the senses, and the modes of nature. Being composed of pure consciousness or knowledge, the soul is distinct from everything material and is uninvolved in the entanglements of the modes of nature. We can perceive the soul through the three functions of material nature, known as wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep. As a person just arisen from sleep may continue to meditate on a dream, even though it is illusory, so by the agency of the mind, one meditates on the sense objects, which the senses can then obtain. Therefore, one should become fully alert and bring the mind under control. According to intelligent authorities, this is the ultimate conclusion of all the Vedas, as well as all practices of yoga. Sankhya, renunciation, austerity, sense control, and truthfulness, just as the sea is the ultimate destination of all rivers. But the actual reason why I, the beloved object of your sight, have stayed away from you is that I wanted to intensify your meditation upon me and thus draw your minds closer to me. When her lover is far away, a woman thinks of him more than when he is present before her. Because your minds are totally absorbed in me and free from all other engagements, you remember me always, and so you will very soon have me again in your presence. Although some gopis had to remain in the cowherd village and so could not join the rasa dance to sport with me at night in the forest, they were none the less fortunate. Indeed, they attained me by thinking of my potent pastimes. Sukadev Goswami said, the women of Raj were pleased to hear this message from their dearmost Krishna. His words having revived their memory, they addressed Uddhava as follows. The gopis said, it is very good that Kamsa, the enemy and persecutor of the Yadus, has now been killed along with his followers. And it is also very good that Lord Achyuta is living happily in the company of his well-wishing friends and relatives, whose every desire is now fulfilled. Gentle Uddhava is the elder brother of Gada, now bestowing on the city women the pleasure that actually belongs to us. We suppose those ladies worship him with generous glances, full of affection, shy smiles. Sri Krishna is expert in all kinds of conjugal affairs and is the darling of the city women. How can he not become entangled now that he is constantly adored by their enchanting words and gestures? O saintly one, does Govinda ever remember us during his conversations with the city women? Does he ever mention us village girls as he freely talks with them? Does he recall those nights in the Vrindavan forest, lovely with lotus, jasmine, and the bright moon? As we glorified his charming pastimes, he enjoyed with us, his beloved girlfriends, in the circle of the rasa dance, which resounded with the music of ankle bells. Will that descendant of Dasath return here, and by the touch of his limbs bring back to life those who are now burning with the grief he himself has caused? Will he save us in that way, just as Lord Indra brings a forest back to life with his water-bearing clouds? But why should Krishna come here after winning a kingdom, killing his enemies, and marrying the daughters of kings? He's satisfied there, surrounded by all his friends and well-wishers. Maybe I'll stop there and ask Vamsi to continue.
Yes, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Text 46. The great soul Krishna is the lord of the goddess of fortune, and he automatically achieves whatever he desires. How can we forest dwellers or any other women fulfill his purpose when he is already fulfilled within himself? Indeed, the great happiness is to renounce all desires, as even the prostitute Pingala had declared. Yet, even though we know this, we cannot give up our hopes of attaining Krishna. Who can bear to give up intimate talks with Lord Uttamashloka? Although he shows no interest in her, Goddess Sri never moves from her place on his chest. Dear Uddhava Prabhu, when Krishna was here in the company of Sankarshana, he enjoyed all these rivers, hills, forests, cows, and flute sounds. All these remind us constantly of Nanda's son. Indeed, because we see Krishna's footprints, which are marked with divine symbols, we can never forget him. O Uddhava, how can we forget him with our hearts have been stolen away by the charming way he walks, his generous smile and playful glances, and his honey-like words? O Master of the goddess of fortune, O Master of Raja, O destroyer of all suffering, Govinda, please lift your Gokul out of the ocean of distress in which it is drowning. Sukadev Goswami continued, Lord Krishna's messages having relieved their fever of separation, the gopis then worship Uddhava, recognizing him as non-different from their Lord Krishna. Uddhava remained there for several months, dispelling the gopis' sorrow by chanting the topics of Lord Krishna's pastimes. Thus he brought joy to all the people of Gokula. All the days that Uddhava dwelled in Nanda's cowherd village seemed like a single moment to the residents of Vraja, for Uddhava was always discussing Krishna. That servant of Lord Hari, seeing the rivers, forests, mountains, valleys, and flowering trees of Vraja, enjoyed inspiring the inhabitants of Vrindavan by reminding them of Lord Krishna. Thus, seeing how the gopis were always disturbed because of their total absorption in Krishna, Uddhava was supremely pleased. Desiring to offer them all respects, he sang as follows. Uddhava's song. Among all persons on earth, these cowherd women alone have actually perfected their embodied lives, for they have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Lord Govinda. Their pure love is hankered after by those who fear material existence, by great sages, and by ourselves as well. For one who has tasted the narrations of the infinite Lord, what is the use of taking birth as a high-class Brahmana or even as Lord Brahma himself? How amazing it is that these simple women who wander about the forest, seemingly spoiled by the improper behavior, have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Krishna, the Supreme Soul. Still, it is true that the Supreme Lord himself awards his blessing even to an ignorant worshipper, just as the best medicine works even when taken by a person ignorant of its ingredients. When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. Their transcendental favor was never bestowed upon This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, whose bodily luster and aroma resembles the lotus flower. And what to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to material estimation? The gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons, and other family members who are very difficult to give up, and they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. The goddess of fortune herself, along with Lord Brahma and all other demigods who are masters of yogic perfection, can worship the lotus feet of Krishna only within her mind. But during the rasa dance, Lord Krishna placed his feet upon these gopis' breasts, and by embracing those feet, the gopis gave up all distress. I repeatedly offer my respects to the dust from the feet of the women of Nanda Maharaj's cowherd village. When these gopis loudly chant the glories of Sri Krishna, the vibrations purify the three worlds. Sukadev Goswami said, Uddhava, the descendant of Dashara, then took permission to leave from the gopis and from Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. He bade farewell to all the cowherd men and about to depart mounted his chariot. As Uddhava was about to leave, Nanda and the others approached him bearing various items of worship. With tears in their eyes, they addressed him as follows. Nanda and the other cowherd said, May our mental functions always take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. May our words always chant his names, and may our bodies always bow down to him and serve him. Wherever we are made to wander about this world by the Supreme Lord's will, in accordance with the reactions of our fruitive work, may our good work and charity always grant us love for Lord Krishna. Sukadev Goswami continued, O ruler of men, thus honored by the cowherd men and expression of devotion for Lord Krishna, Uddhava went back to the city of Mathura, which was under Krishna's protection. After falling down to pay his homage, Uddhava described to Lord Krishna the immense devotion of the residents of Raja. Uddhava also described it to Vasudeva, Lord Balarama, Lord Balarama, and King Ugrasena, and presented to them the gifts of tribute he had brought with him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's a wonderful story. Uddhava is one of the very best. As a matter of fact, in the Uddhava Gita, which is in the next canto, the 11th canto, I think there's 23 chapters in the 11th canto that are dedicated to the Uddhava Gita, because Uddhava was a dear friend and he was actually a counselor to Krishna. So this is very unusual. This is a totally different relationship. We read about Akrura going to Vrindavan. They were very unhappy about him coming, okay, because he came to take Krishna away. But Uddhava actually came to bring that message that Krishna left. He said, I will return, right? So he sent his messenger, and it's considered that the messenger is as good as, you know, the person who sent it. So what you see, like in these foreign countries, when the ambassador comes or whatever, he's treated with royalty, and the armed guards are there, and I mean everything is very nicely done, because they recognize that he is actually speaking on behalf of the supreme, whatever, and supreme president or chancellor or dictator, whatever it might be. So in this case, they've treated Uddhava with a great deal of worship, and they've even were amazed to see that he looked so much like Krishna. He was wearing same colored clothing. He had similar ornaments as Krishna. He had the long arms and the beautiful eyes, lotus eyes. He had all of the features of Krishna. They were shocked and amazed. at that. So they wondered who he was. But if you go back to the very first of this chapter, they're very angry with Krishna because Krishna kind of abandoned them, didn't he? We're going to go back over that in just 1 second. But let's, before we go back to the beginning, first of all, is there any questions or comments anybody wants to make right now? And then I recap, and then we can definitely make comments then too. Or anytime you can make comments naturally. So anything anybody want to say before we kind of recap this thing? We're going to kind of unpack it because there's a few sections here that are very, very, very important for us to always remember and never forget. So the first thing that we see here at the very end is the devotion of the residents of Braja. Okay, great sages who perform all these austerities, stand in cold water up to here and in the Himalayan mountains. You know, they're performing austerities, eating only leaves. You know, we know about the sitting on kusha grass in the meditative state, all this stuff. None of that can compare to the devotion that these gopis had for the Lord. And Uddhava recognizes that. And actually, he prays that he could become a bush or a creeper in Vrindavan forest, where maybe one of the gopis might pass by at some point and brush their lotus feet against him. So he's even willing to take up the position of neutrality to achieve their mercy. You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty strong when you think about it. He wants to be a bush or a creeper. So he worships the gopis as the supreme devotees of the Lord in the world. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. In other words, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. And he is actually directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated on a machine made of material nature. Now, the gopis are being directed by Krishna's Yoga Maya. And most of the materialists are being directed by Krishna's Mahamaya. Mahamaya means that they are entangled in the three modes of material nature. But we know that the gopis are not entangled in the three modes of material nature. This feeling that they have for Krishna is completely transcendental. And it's described in Bhagavad Gita that one who is completely meditating on the Lord, that person who's completely fixed, does not fall down, at once attains to the Brahman platform. They're living in a transcendental environment. They're not really living in a material world anymore. Okay? Now, their activities may seem to be like an ordinary person. So Krishna, he's very careful to explain that in Bhagavad Gita in 15.8. He says, Sarinam avyapnopi. So avyapnoti, he says the living entity in the material world carries he carries different conceptions of life, just like the air carries aromas. But he carries those conceptions life after life, body after body. And depending on the conception of the living being, which is generally manufactured by concoction or speculation, that living entity could fall down into the lower species again. So it's very dangerous that we should be very, very careful, that we should not forget Krishna at any moment, because by forgetting Krishna, one can fall back into the modes of material nature, fall down from mode of goodness to passion to ignorance. And that would lead us down to lower species of life. But it says, Krishna says that in 14.26 of Bhagavad Gita, it says, one who engages in full devotional service and does not fall down in any circumstance at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So these ladies are on the level of Brahman. All the inhabitants of Vraja are on the level of Brahman. In other words, they're not in the material world any longer. It may appear that they're in the material world, and the activities may appear to be material. But believe me, these activities are associated with Krishna, and anything that's associated with Krishna, all of the sinful reactions, all of the modes of material nature, everything is vanquished, everything is burned up, and there's nothing left but that clean ash. Everything is gone now. There's no more karma, there's no more anything. Now you're enjoying the pastimes of the Lord. Okay? So How do you get there? Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita 1154, Bhakti Twana Yayasakya, Aham Evam Vidorjana, Gyantum Drastum Chitatbena, Praveshtum Cha Parantapa. You can understand the Lord only by undivided devotional service. That's the only way that you can know Krishna. So the great Gyanis of the world, the great yogis of the world, the great Karmi yogis of the world, certainly the Karmakandis, they cannot understand Krishna. No one can enter into the mysteries of the Lord's pastimes without being a great devotee of the Lord. He said, but by doing that, by in devotional service, you can understand me as I am standing before you, and I can thus be seen directly. So these people are standing before the Lord. They're seeing the Lord directly. Okay? And so their position is beyond any material situation. There's no problem of any kind, because none of this is material, even though people have tried to make it mundane because their mind is mundane, and therefore they try to cast their Maya onto the purity of this pastime of the gopis with the Lord. So if you go back to the first of the chapter, I just wanted to say a couple of things like that first so you kind of get an idea of these gopis, who they are. It said, so they if you go back from text 11 to about text 20, and we'll look at let's look at 7 first. It says they're mad at Krishna, okay, because he's abandoned them. He said they don't think he sees anything worth coming back to Braja for except for his parents, because he's attached to his parents. And they start philosophizing about how that's the strongest bond in the material world is our blood bond that we have with our parents and our children, so forth like that. So he wants to give pleasure to his parents, but he says he might not consider worth remembering in these cow pastures of Braja anything else, including them. So they're feeling a little hurt. Their feelings are hurt, but they haven't heard what Uddhava has to say yet. So right now they're inserting their feelings onto Uddhava. They're just kind of crying to Uddhava right now and complaining to Uddhava. And so they go on, and they're very intelligent. They say the friendship shown to others, those who are not family members, is always motivated by personal interest, and thus it's a pretense only. So they're accusing Krishna of enjoying them one night only and then disappearing. And now he's consorting with all these women in Mathura who are very high, dignified royalties, married all these kings, these wives, because he's killed all these people. And now he's taken everybody into his protection. And they think, well, he's just abandoned us. They go on to say, it only lasts until one's purpose is fulfilled. So they're saying that Krishna's fulfilled his purpose with us and he's moved on. So he says, such friendship is like the interest men take in women. In other words, they just want to enjoy the woman and then just move on. They don't want to actually be obligated, in any other function other than the enjoyment of the woman. And so therefore, it's a problem in the material world. Arjuna talked to Krishna about that. If we kill everybody, then who will protect the women? And it'll be unwanted progeny. Okay? So she goes on to say, prostitutes abandon a penniless man, the subjects abandon an incompetent king, students abandon their teacher after they have finished their education. We've seen that one before. And a priest, a man who has remunerated them for a sacrifice. So once the priest gets paid, he's gone. Right? So he's been remunerated and now he's out of there. Birds abandon a tree when its fruits are gone. Guests abandon a house after they've eaten there. Animals abandon a forest that's burnt down. Think about it. And a lover abandons a woman he has enjoyed, even though she remains attached to him. So they're complaining and they're having this problem with Krishna because of this. So their bodies, their minds, it says their words, they're all dedicated to Lord Govinda. And Uddhava arrived amongst them, and they were constantly remembering Krishna and their activities. And they sang about them. And as they were doing this, it says they sang about them and they cried without any shame. So they had given up shame. They'd given up their households. They'd given up their families. They'd given up their reputation. They'd given up everything. And now they're so addicted to Krishna, they can't talk about or think about anything but Krishna. And Krishna left them. Try to imagine their sorrow. Now, I'm going to stop here for 1 second because Krishna is going to explain here in a minute why he did this. He's going to explain why he did this to them, and it makes perfect sense. Prabhupada one time, I won't mention his name, but he had a disciple who was his personal servant, and this was way back, and the personal servant massaged Prabhupada's feet, cooked for Prabhupada, took care of Prabhupada, and all of a sudden he started thinking that Prabhupada was dependent upon him instead of on Krishna. And so therefore, what happened was he became offensive and he was pushed down. Prabhupada said he was pushed down because he became offensive, right? Because he had thought that Prabhupada was dependent on him. So when you have absence, it makes the heart grow fonder. But when you're together, it's easy. Familiarity breeds contempt. And so when you see a wife and a husband, when they're paramours in the beginning, oh, it's the best thing in the world. But then once you're married and you're with each other every day, then contempt sets in. And so that contempt has to be controlled. That contempt has to be understood. Oh, this is the nature of the situation Krishnaism made. So we have some separation. Whenever you're feeling contemptuous, it's better to take some separation from one another, because that way you wouldn't feel like that. So they were meditating, and one of the gopis, while she was doing that, saw a little honeybee. And in her mind, she imagined it to be a messenger. So the gopi said, "Oh, friend of a cheater." That's the first thing she says. And she goes on, "Don't touch my feet with your whiskers, which are smeared with a kumkum that rubbed onto Krishna's garland when it was crushed by the breast of a rival lover." They're jealous of Krishna. This transcendental jealousy. And they go on to say, just let Krishna satisfy the women of Mathura. They're finished. They go, yeah, let it go, He goes on, he said, after making us drink the enchanting nectar of his lips only once, he abandoned us, just as you might quickly abandon some flowers after you're finished like this. So they go on to completely complain, not only to Uddhava, but to the bee. So she's complaining to the little bee. "Oh, bee, why do you sing here so much about the Lord of the Yadus in front of us homeless people?" You know that the Vrindavan dwellers at that time were kind of nomadic. They would go wherever the cows could get grass. So they would go to these various forests wherever they could go. And many times they would pack up everything and go. We heard this story not too long ago where they had to completely move everything. So to try to protect baby Krishna, you remember that when they first moved to Braja. So it goes on. It says that now that the women of Mathura satisfied, let us be done with Krishna. As a matter of fact, they go on to say, please talk about something other than Krishna. Please talk about something other than Krishna is what they're asking. So that's pretty wild, because they're in such pain of anguish not being with Krishna. And they go on to criticize Krishna further, because they say even after he consumed the gifts of Bali Maharaj, he bound him up with ropes as if he were just a crow or a buzzard. So let us give up all friendship with this dark complexioned boy. Even if we can't stop talking about him, let's just give up all of our friendship and be done with it. So this is how they're feeling because Krishna has left. So it goes on through this process where there's three really important sections here. That the first one is what I call the complaints of the gopis. The next one is where Uddhava tries to pacify the gopis, which is text 21 through 28. And then there's the letter or the message that Uddhava recants to the gopis from Krishna from text, say, 29 through 37. And you can read that again and again and again and again and again and again, and you'll appreciate it more and more every time you do. And then there's another section where it's Uddhava's song. So we get to hear Uddhava's song, not the Uddhava, the Uddhava Gita. This is also Uddhava Gita, even though this one is only, well, how many verses? Like 58 through 63. There's only like 6 or 8 verses here. But you'll get 23 more chapters of Uddhava's song in the next canto, in the 11th canto, when we get there. So, and then Uddhava, of course, leaves at the end and goes back to Mathura. So, the idea behind this situation is that Uddhava now has to step up and make them feel better. So they say, "Oh, Uddhava, it is indeed regrettable that Krishna resides in Mathura. Does he remember his father's household affairs, his friends, the cowherd boys, oh great soul? Does he ever even talk about us, his maidservants? And when will he lay his aguru-scented hand on their heads again?" This is they're remembering the fragrance of Krishna's hand as it touched their hair. So this is very wonderful. So in text 23, Uddhava actually gets a chance to respond. At this point, he's just sitting there taking this, right? And he's realizing their intense attachment. So he says, in text 23, he says, Sri Uddhava said, "Certainly you gopis are all successful and are universally worshipped because you've dedicated your minds in this way to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva." So this lines up with what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita in 9:14. You might remember that verse, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantas cha dridhavrata mamanyastas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. This is a very wonderful verse because Krishna is saying in this verse the same thing. He's talking about the gopis. He says, always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with love and devotion. This is what turns Krishna on. This is the way to get home, back to Godhead. Okay, it's a simple method. Do everything for Krishna and don't do anything that's not for Krishna. So the gopis are doing that. They're doing everything for Krishna. They've given up everything for Krishna. They only think of Krishna. Okay, so Uddhava says, now because you're in that state, you're worshipped universally by the entire universe. Everyone worships you. And it goes on to say that devotional service to Lord Krishna is attained by charity, strict vows, austerities, fire sacrifices, japa, study of the Vedas, observance of regulative principles, and indeed by the performance of many other auspicious practices. And we see those samskaras, and we see these activities in the Vedic text. And it's all being recommended. As a matter of fact, we see that these great Rajasuya sacrifices and various sacrifices that have been going on, and Krishna appears during some of those things, and all those great yagyas you can read about in the Bhagavatam. But he says, but by your great fortune is you have established an unexcelled standard of pure devotion for Lord Uttama Shloka. A standard that even the sages can hardly attain. Isn't that cool? So he tells them right there, right off the bat, he said, you've left your sons, your husbands, your bodily comforts, your relatives. You've left everything in favor of the supreme male, who's known as Krishna. And you've rightfully claimed by doing this the privilege of unalloyed for the transcendental Lord. So you are most glorious. Indeed, by exhibiting your love for Krishna and separation from him, you have shown me great mercy, because he began to see the advantages. And I explained that story about Prabhupada. If Krishna didn't leave, who knows? I mean, it could have been hackneyed, or whatever. The whole relationship could have been a bit contemptuous. So in this way, it says, Krishna, now he goes on to say, here, this is very important. My good ladies, now please hear your beloved's message, which I, the confidential servant of my master, have come to bring you. So these next few verses explain everything. And this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead speaking, and through Uddhava. And he says, you are never actually separated from me, for I am the soul of all creation. So Krishna is the soul of all creation. And even though fools deride him when he descends in the human form, they don't know his transcendental nature. So therefore, they can't understand the Lord. The Lord won't appear before them. And those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service, Krishna goes on to say in the Bhagavad Gita, they cannot attain me, but return to this material world of birth and death. So we have to somehow or another get this knowledge, get this wisdom, get this understanding. So Krishna's kind enough to speak this verse. Raja Vijay Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratikshavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of all education. What the gopis are teaching, these are Aborigine nomadic girls. They have no education. But what they're teaching is the king of all education. It's the most secret of all secrets, and they've understood it. It's the purest knowledge. It gives direct perception of the soul by realization, direct realization. So it's the perfection of religion. It's everlasting and it's joyfully performed. So the Lord is very clear about this process is the supreme process. It's the supreme knowledge. It's the supreme goal. It's the supreme goal of all education. So because it doesn't matter if you're in Brahmaloka or where you are, it's all a place of birth and death, wherein repeated birth and death take place. So Krishna is trying to get us out of here. He's trying to bring us home. So he goes, by myself I create and sustain and withdraw myself within myself by the power of my own personal energy, which comprises the material elements, the senses, and the modes of material nature. All of that is there. And Krishna is explaining that to us very nicely here. So he goes on to say, he talks about wakefulness, sleep. There's three states of consciousness: deep sleep, sleep, and wakefulness or dreaming, what Prabhupada said. So he goes on to explain that to them, that the world is a dream, it's illusory. And by the agency of the mind, one meditates on the sense objects, and then the senses go to try to obtain it. There's some scientific evidence that whatever you desire, somehow or another, the universe starts working in all of its different ways to try to manifest that in your life, if you're sincerely wanting it. And this is Krishna fulfilling the desires of everyone since time immemorial. And we know that story. Krishna describes that in Bhagavad Gita. So he says, according to the intelligent authorities, this is the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas. In other words, to bring the mind under control. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, wherever the mind wanders due to its restless and fickle nature, one must bring it back under the control of the self. So there's really no way to stop the mind from doing what it does. There's no way to make the soul inactive. It's not going to happen. So what do? You take everything you've got and you dedicate it somehow or another to Krishna. That's all. It's really actually very simple, because right now you're simply, your consciousness has concocted that you're the Supreme Personality and that everything should be dedicated to you. That's an illusion. Okay? So you can live that illusion life after life after life, take your chances with that, or you can now control your mind and bring it under control of the self by chanting There's 9 devotional processes: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smartanam. What's the rest? Let's see. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smartanam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasham, Sakyam, Atmani, Vedanam. Okay, so there's 9 processes there. And those processes are there for us to constantly have our minds fixed on the Lord. Because whatever you fix it on, you'll attain. Krishna even says that in Bhagavad Gita. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and they go to the planets of the demigods. So these karmic khandis, they're just looking for a quick fix. It's like trying to get a drug fix or get a shot of dope or something. It won't last. It's not going to last. So Krishna says, don't do that. If you're going to practice yoga, at least be a real yogi. 647, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgatin antaratmana Shradavan bhajate yomam same yuktat mato mataha. And that means of all the yogis that exist, okay, anybody is on the path. Anybody. It says, he who abides in me with good faith, worshiping me in transcendental loving service, is the most intimately united with me and is the highest of all the yogis. So Krishna is very clear what he's looking for. And the gopis had found it, and Uddhava realized that. So now Krishna is explaining to them here. He says, but the actual reason why I, the beloved object of your sight, have stayed away from you is that I wanted to intensify your meditation upon me and thus draw your minds closer to me. Manmana bhava madbhakto majjajin mam namaskaru. Right? Just always think of me, always meditate on me, offer your obeisances, worship me. Surely you will come to me if you do these things. So Krishna is saying like that. She says, when a lover is far away, a woman thinks of him more than when he is present before her. Right? So, you would see that when somebody is gone, you're always looking to be reunited. But when you're united, sometimes you're always looking to be gone. when are you leaving? Don't let the door hit you in the, But you understand what I'm talking about. People get this hackneyed way. It says that even 2 beloved lovers, if they're put in a closed quarters, they begin to argue. Everyone will begin to argue. So it's just the nature of the beast, guys. So make a little distance. And Prabhupada said, as spiritual master, it's better not to have the vapu of the spiritual master because there is some chance you become familiar. Just like this devotee did who was pushed down, okay, who became familiar with Prabhupada. So Sukadeva Goswami said the women of Vraja were pleased to hear the message from their dearmost Krishna, and having revived their memory, they addressed Uddhava as follows. The Gopis said, it's good that Kamsa, the enemy and the persecutor of the Yadavas, has now been killed along with his followers. And it is also very good that Lord Achyuta is living happily in the company of his well-wishing friends and relatives, whose every desire is now being fulfilled. So Krishna has kind of moved on. And so the girls are saying, we're still missing Krishna. Krishna is expert in all types of conjugal affairs. And so the city women, how can he not become entangled with these beautiful city women, constantly adored by their enchanting words and gestures? And he goes on and says, does he ever mention us, village girls, as he freely talks with them? You see their jealousy? They're tore up, y'all. And so Uddhava and Krishna's already explained this, and they're still mad at Krishna. They're not even over it yet. So they go back and talk about, does he recall the nights in Vrindavan forest? Does he recall those nights that the smell of the lotus and jasmine were filtering through the air, and the bright moon illuminated their dance and their charming pastimes that he enjoyed with us, his beloved girlfriends? It says, will he ever return here? Will he ever come back to touch us who are burning with grief? He himself has caused this terrible grief. Say, will he ever save us in this way? And so just as Indra sends the clouds to bring back life to the burned forest, will Krishna come back to us? So it's very beautiful. This whole dialogue back and forth is very, very wonderful. So they go on and talk a little more about how Krishna is the desire of everyone and how he is now gone away. And so, dear Uddhava Prabhu, when Krishna was there in the company of Sankarshan, he enjoyed all the rivers, hills, forests, cows, and flute sounds. All these remind us constantly of him. Indeed, because we see Krishna's footprints, which are marked with his divine symbols, we can never forget him. That's why we have to go to Vrindavan. If you want to know Krishna, you got to know his pastimes. To know Krishna is to love Krishna. And so we have a chance to love Krishna in this way. So they go on and talk about a few of the stories of lifting, he said, please, they ask, lift your Gokula out of this ocean of distress in which it is now drowning. So they're praying to Krishna to please come back, please save them. So after this part of it, of course, Uddhava got ready to depart, and but actually he remained there for several months. Did you know that? And they thought it was just a single moment. They thought it was a single moment, but he remained there for, I've forgotten how many months. I think it was 11 months. He stayed with the gopis at that time. And he consoled all of the residents of Braja during that time and brought them happy. And it dispelled all the gopis' sorrows and recanted activities of Krishna going into Mathura. And they were enthralled to hear all these stories. And so it brought joy to all the people of Gokula. And that's what Uddhava was there to do. That's what he did on behalf of the Lord. So all those days seemed like a single moment, it says. And so after Uddhava saw this determination and this devotion of the gopis who were their total absorption in Krishna, Uddhava was supremely pleased. He was supremely pleased with them. And desiring to offer them all respect, he sang as follows. Now, this is Uddhava's song, and this is the last portion before Uddhava leaves. But in Uddhava's song, he says, among all the persons on the earth, all of them, these cowherd women alone have actually perfected their embodied lives, for they achieve the perfection of unalloyed love for Lord Govinda. See, that's the whole key. So somehow or another, we've got to get this unalloyed taste for the narrations of the Lord. People don't have a taste for these things unless they're presented in such a way that is very palatable, like that. And that's fine. Now movies are coming out. Hopefully they're going to be presented in a way that the modern audiences could understand it through cinema, which Prabhupada used to criticize. But even cinema can be used for the glorification of the Lord, because Prabhupada used theater to present these stories. So everything can be used for the service of the Lord, literally. So you just have to find a way to make it work. You have to find out how to do it. So he goes on to say, what's the use of taking these high-class births as a Brahmana, or even Lord Brahma himself? What is the use of all of that? How amazing it is that these simple women who wander about the forest, seemingly spoiled by improper behavior, have achieved the perfection of unalloyed love for Krishna, the Supreme Soul. How have they done this? So they've done it through this conjugal, Madhurya Rasa. They have this feeling of love for Krishna in that way. It could be Vatsalya Rasa as parental. It could be as a friend, Sakya Ras or Santa Ras, or it could be neutrality, like Uddhava says here in a moment. He would like to be a bush, or just a creeper, neutrality. So any of these things are there. Dasya Ras is there. So at the very end of this chapter, Uddhava says that the gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, their sons, and their other family members, who are very difficult to give up, and they've forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Krishna says, by all the Vedas I'm to be known, right? I'm the compiler of the Vedas. He says like that in Bhagavad Gita. So he prays that he could be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes or creepers or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis may come by and trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet at some point. And that's what he's asking for. So you can see, Trinada Pisanichana, Tarar Pisa Hishnana, Manina Manade, Kirtanaya Sadahari. So you can see that we have to be lower than the straw in the street. And here, Uddhava is actually asking to become virtually straw in the street so that he can be stepped upon by the gopis. Is that pretty cool? You think about that. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended that. So he repeatedly offers his respect to the women, cowherd women, and he said, whose vibration purifies the three worlds. So Uddhava's about to leave, and Nanda, everybody approaches him with all these tears in their eyes, and they address him as follows. Nanda says, may our mental functions always take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. May our words always chant his names. May our bodies always bow down to him and serve him. Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto. This is the whole thing. This is the whole thing, guys. Just give it back. It's not yours. Nothing's yours. You don't own anything. The only thing you have is desire. Everything else is being provided by Krishna. Well, be grateful. Be thankful. Be hopeful. Be happy. Know that what you're doing will have ultimate benefit beyond your wildest imaginations. You can't know. Krishna doesn't even know his own glories. How could you know? See what I'm saying? So we've got wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things coming for those who worship the Lord in love and devotion. Their lives will be sublime. Prabhupada used to use that word, sublime. I love that word. Look it up. It's pretty intense, sublime. So anyway, so Uddhava goes back, and after expressing this devotion for Lord Krishna, Uddhava went back to city Mathura, and then he bowed down, paid his homage, and he described the immense devotion of the residents of Braja. And Lord Krishna and Balaram and King Ingrasena were all there, and they took the gifts of tribute that they had brought and were very, very happy to hear the news. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, and this I'll close with this statement. When you have thus learned the truth, so when you have thus learned the truth, right? Think about it. When you have thus learned the truth, you will know that all beings are but a part of me, and that they are in me, and that they are mine. You don't even belong to yourself. You have no possession. You know what your possession is? Krishna. Check it out. Check it out. Find out who you are. Become self-realized. And when you have thus learned the truth, you will know that you are but a part of Krishna and that he owns you. So what can the gopis even offer back? Krishna already owns all of this. It's all a dance for pleasure. It's all an act. It's all a wonderful, just a variety of pleasure. They call Vrindavan's groves pleasure gardens, pleasure groves. Krishna is the original source of all pleasure. Rama means the source of all pleasure. So Krishna and Balaram, they're the source of your happiness, and they're the reason why we are here tonight discussing this wonderful chapter of Uddhava Goes to Vrindavan. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Really appreciate you guys being here always. And I can't imagine how Prabhupada must have felt when he came to New York and he looked at all those soot-covered buildings in Boston. I mean, there's meat, cigarettes, alcohol, prostitution, everything around him. It's all there. Prabhupada pulls right up on the boat and he's like, oh no, maybe this is the wrong stop. But even New York was worse. And the Bowery was worse. Prabhupada had to witness all these horrible things. And it caused his compassion to overwhelm him. And he became where he would give his last dollar, literally, to save us. He gave his last measure of effort in life to save us. At a time where he could have been relaxing in Vrindavan and saving himself, he came to help us. So we owe everything to Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. Haribo. All right. What else? Anybody got something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you for summarizing the chapter so well. This is amazing chapter that really brings out the bhakti of the gopis, which we know is the topmost. And Uddhava, initially he was coming to pacify the inhabitants of Raja, but then he wound up learning from them uh, what is real bhakti, because he had a lot of theoretical knowledge. But then when he saw, like you said, the Aboriginal girls who did not have any education or sophistication, but they had the highest feelings for the Lord, he was really surprised. He never thought there's anything like this, and hence he just wants to be a creeper in Vrindavan to get the dust of their lotus feet. So I guess that's why we all get the dust from Vrindavan, the Vraj Raj. Uh, it's so purifying because it touched the lotus feet of these wonderful devotees who are always thinking about Krishna. We are always trying to find out ways to remember Krishna, and they are finding ways to somehow forget Krishna because they're mad at Krishna. But they in their own way, they're always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Krishna. Mm.
Yeah, that's wonderful stuff. It
Mm.
doesn't get any better, guys. I mean, we're at in my mind, this is one of the sweetest stories there is, that you could have, and you get to really see the insight that Uddhava had, like you said, of how he appreciated the gopis. And I'm not sure that even though Krishna said before Uddhava went, you remember the dialogue that he told Uddhava. He said, "These poor girls
Mm.
in Braja, they've given up everything for me, and now here I am here. Would you please carry this message?" He actually took Uddhava by the hands and held his hands and looked at him and asked him to deliver this message, and he delivered it verbatim to the gopis, and it satisfied their hearts and souls. And they began to realize, now we begin to realize, that service and separation is superior.
Mhm.
It is the highest platform, actually. So, we need to appreciate how our hearts become saddened, really, in the absence of the spiritual master, or in the absence of the Vaishnava devotee. We have to surround ourselves, sadhu sangha. We have to have sadhu sangha. We have to have the association of devotees who want to talk about this. But where are they? I mean, really, if you think about it, they're few and far between. I mean, if you go to India, maybe there's a bunch around, okay, but in the Western world, it's difficult. So, we have to continue to cry in the wilderness. We started doing this back 50 some odd years ago. Now there's 550 million Bhagavad Gitas on the street. You see what I'm saying? Hundreds, 800 plus temples built all around the world. Just fabulous temples. The largest religious structure in the world is being currently built. So these are all great, wonderful things that Prabhupada did. And if you really look at it, he fulfilled Chaitanya's mission to bring about this Chaitanya era, which we are now in the beginning stages of. And for another 9,500 plus years, 550 or
Mm.
whatever, we should be able to find people who will relish this truth. Now, we don't know how it will be ushered in. We hope peacefully through the rise of consciousness. We do see that happening, but it can be brought in other ways as well. So we know that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes there are different ways that people come to the Lord. One of the ways is distress. So distress is not a bad thing. And so Krishna may use that option. Or through curiosity. That'd be fine. Here's Bhagavad Gita. Read this. Oh, what I'm curious. And through knowledge, you can also come. So after reading Bhagavad Gita, now you're informed people are coming on board. But we're meeting them everywhere. And Krishna is making arrangements for us to meet them. So, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Vamsi, for always being stalwart.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. And also in this chapter, there's the Brahmara Gita, the song to the bee. It's called and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it's actually Radharani who is addressing the bee because she doesn't directly talk to Uddhava. She's talking to the bee as if she wants to give a message to Uddhava that the bee is coming from Vrindavan and she's addressing the bee. And Sukadeva Goswami never says the name Radha because, Sukadeva Goswami will go into trance, right? So he just says one of the gopis were talking to this bee.
Yeah, he goes into a trance. It's kind of like that story where the rich merchant, who had the hair all greased back and everything, but he was a great devotee of the Lord. And when who was it that went to see him? I'm trying to remember now who it was, but I thought it was one of the Matajis from Chaitanya era there. I can't remember exactly which one, but maybe you could remind me of that story. But as soon as she went there, she thought he was puffed up because he had all this money and this gold. He had all this stuff.
Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Gadadhar Pandit going and made him his guru, actually.
There you go. Exactly. So when he heard the word Krishna, he immediately fell from his dais. He fell into the floor. He's rolling like a madman. His hair's all messed up. He doesn't even care because he's feeling the ecstasy of trance, just like you're talking about. So this is what we want as well. And those happinesses can't be removed. No one can damage that happiness. No one can take that away from you. So that's the real true happiness that we're looking for. Thank you, Prabhu. Appreciate you being here. Wonderful chapter. Hare Krishna. We'll see you the next time. Say with me, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama.
Hare Hare Bo.
Haribo.
I'll see you soon. Next time.
Jai.
Jai.